So the first question is for you, Guillaume. In a post-COVID world where mental health challenges are more visible than ever, how can we create a workplace culture that truly supports resilience, connection, and empowerment? And what have you found most effective in fostering a harmonious environment where people can rise and thrive together? It's a big question.
It's an interesting question, I would say. And thank you very much for having me here. I'm very happy to be here and share with you on this panel discussion. I would start by saying that COVID was not easy. And we all have been through tough times during COVID. Staying at home, new ways of work, the feeling of loneliness and isolation that had a big impact on our mental well-being. I can personally share myself. I've been through tough times. It was not easy. And each and every one of us who had a different experience of it, especially for those who maybe have a family, so having to work from home with children, babies, It's a new way of work, having your loved one with you all the time. It's a new way of seeing things. So knowing that it was not easy for each and every one, the aim was to see how can we come and help each and every one in those challenging times. One approach we did was, let's do, after the COVID, a survey and see how people felt. And out of this survey, what can we do to support them? We try to understand. We can imagine what they have been through, but what they really felt was really personal to each and every one. So what we did at Absa, we set up what we call an EAP, an Employee Assistance Program, with a number of subject matter experts who were readily available to support our people. And it was completely sponsored by the bank. And it doesn't stop with the employee only. It was also around their family, their children, because we knew it was not easy. And with a number of subject matter experts, we gave the opportunity for them to choose which of those subject matter experts do have the necessary expertise they can bank on. So I can feel very at ease with her, maybe not with Ridhima. So you can choose the person that, because you're going to talk about something very personal. And it's deep sometimes. You must feel at ease. So this is what we did. And we said, okay, this is one part of it, starting with a personal aspect, like Manish mentioned. Let's see how we can help them on the workplace now. So we designed toolkits for our people managers, and even for colleagues, to help them thrive within the new ways of work. So how can they better lead their teams? What are the things to consider in terms of symptoms so they can share with us, and how we can help them? So for colleagues also, how can they, at this point in time, share their concerns, share how they feel, be it with their people manager, or even with what we call people partners who make the bridge between the business and the human capital team. So providing them with a range of wellness solutions. Following that, what we did is, okay, we know it's not easy. How can we help more? So we do wellness weeks in Absa. In our wellness weeks, we provided the opportunity for them to, I would say that, to get a better understanding of mental well-being. So talks on mental illness, disorders, talks on trauma, talks on substance abuse because we never know. Things might happen. Nutrition also, because when we talk about well-being, c'est un ensemble. It cannot be only one part of it, but we really wanted to provide the maximum in terms of wellness solutions so that people can take what's good for them, because it is a personal pursuit, so that they can thrive thereafter. So we listen, we have a listening strategy to really provide the maximum in terms of support for our people. And this is what we are really continuing in terms of how do we ensure that our people are thriving. And one important aspect of it, I would say the most important aspect of it, once the COVID was over, was how do we bring back our people together in terms of connection. Trust is one of our values. We really cherish that part. So we really indulge in upskilling our people managers so they can get deeper connections with people. But not only to listen, but really to understand and have that possibility to share, be it on personal aspect and professional aspect. And here we talk a lot about consideration and empathy. COVID made us learn a lot of things when we talk about those difficult times. And we open the door in that way for our colleagues. So this is in a nutshell what we are doing at Absa, really putting in the forefront that connection aspect for our people so they can come towards us, speak to us, because psychological safety is very important for us too, so that they can be in a position to feel well. We have different solutions that we're providing, but they can also thrive within the organization.
Thank you, Guillaume. So I have a follow-up question for you, actually. Can you elaborate a little bit more about how we can create psychological safety in the workplace, particularly as we have the rise in AI? We know that's a very big conversation starter across every corporate sector. So what does psychological safety look like to you in this environment? And how have you been able to drive that change in your organization?
That's a very interesting question. And it's not an easy one, because the dynamics are quite different in the different departments. The main aspect of it was to focus on our people managers. How? Because they are the one leading the team each and every day. And in leading those teams, it's important for colleagues, we call them colleagues in Absa, to be able to trust the people manager. It starts with trust. Once you have the trust within the function or even the whole bank, it's easier for you to connect. But how to create that connection is to have someone who is really considerate and want to not only listen but to understand. Take into consideration what you're sharing, be very transparent, and also be very professional in his approach. You know, we have evolved in such a way that today it's not about, okay, you need to be on time, you need to deliver this within those times and everything. It's really about how can you make people have that feeling that they are valued, and they themselves come towards having that professional mindset, entrepreneurship mindset, to come and deliver because they know they have to do it. And you're just here to lead them and make them feel that they are making a difference and they matter within the organization. I hope I have answered your question.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Guillaume. So as we can see, we have a few very deep elements that are needed in this very fast-paced corporate world we live in today. with the rise of technology and AI, the first thing is trust. The second thing is transparent communication. I mean, we've all heard this saying, there's a reason why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So deep listening plays a very major role. But we also have this opportunity with us, with artificial intelligence. As Guillaume very well mentioned, it puts connection high up on the priority list. The more we can connect with other human beings, the more we can create that culture and that harmony in the workplace. So thank you, Guillaume.
Thank you.
So our next question is for you, Ridhima. How are you this afternoon?
Very well, thank you.
Great.
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm just glad that this event is happening. We've been talking about that for years.
Yes,
Well done.
absolutely. I'm so happy it's happening as well. The power of manifestation. So, Ridhima, my question for you is, what challenges did you face in bringing learning programs to life? And what role do you believe adaptability plays in sustaining and thriving a harmonious workplace culture?
Thank you, Priya. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Guillaume. I've had the privilege to work with him, and I share all his passion and enthusiasm about well-being. So thank you for inviting me on stage. And these are actually 2 questions, so if I can answer part by part.
Sure.
So first of all, I wanted to share about the challenge of people development. To start with, let's talk about relevance. So one of the major challenges that I've been experiencing so far, and I'm hoping that many of you could relate as well, is really having that real engagement from people in the workplace, having that relevance in terms of the type of training that we're going to provide for them. Let's face it, people are busy. Workload pressure gets higher. The demand from business gets higher. It keeps on increasing. So if you don't create impactful and meaningful learning programs for them, learning will never be their priority because they have many different things to follow and to do. So how do you create meaningful learning programs? What is it that you do? That brings me to my second point, which is about the issue of one size fits all. So many a time we believe that, a one-size-fits-all learning program can apply to everyone. But it's important to understand that we all individual and we have different learning style. So people learn differently. We can have a learning classroom training. We have bite-sized learning online. But we also learn through relationship. We have a little community of practice we can learn. We have a mentor who can really guide us through. And we have different engagement sessions where we can learn different ideas and different things that happen. Definitely, there is the part of functional training, which is more of business relevance, or what's the priority for the business. This is where you can create impactful learning, which is relevant to the business. But there's also the aspect of behavioral training in terms of learning. So if we look into the current situation at the moment, if many of you are in the people profession today, that is HR, everybody's fighting for labor. We have talent shortages. So when we look at how it can occur, a simple example, it could also be the people management. So when we're thinking about why people are leaving, there could be also, just one example, definitely there are many others, but one challenge could be the people manager. So it's true that we often ignore the fact that someone who's really highly technical, very good at his job, able to bring the revenue that's needed at work, but when the person is promoted as a manager, is he really given the right skills? He or she, are they really given the skills that's required? So this is what I talk about relevance. So when we don't want people to leave, we want them to have a thriving team to work together, we're going to upskill the manager. So when we see the issue at the moment, people leaving because of the manager, so what you do, you upskill the manager. You create leadership program. We create people management program. And this is what we've been talking about a lot, around upskilling the manager to create a safe space for them to be able to work harmoniously, to be able to thrive. So that's two. Thirdly, I would like to focus on leadership buy-in. So isn't it a fact that if the leaders themselves are not adopting the learning culture, it may not be taken as seriously or as important as it should be in an organization? I can see many of you nodding, so I think you experience it quite often or not. So I strongly believe that leaders have a great responsibility to create an inclusive environment, a safe space. This is where we talk about psychological safety. Definitely whilst the business is running, there are different operational need, functional need for the business, but let's look on the side. What is it that we can do for our people as well when it comes to learning? So when I talk about inclusive environment, an example could be, can we focus on gender-based violence, for example, the issues of tackling gender-based violence? So if I talk to you today, did you know that there is a study recently from Kantar in Mauritius? So the study was about finding out what were the challenges that many women face for progressing in their career. The issue was gender-based violence. Many of us may say, it doesn't exist in my company, but please try to find out. You'll be surprised. I mean, I've had the privilege of having a great session yesterday itself, which is why it's still fresh in my mind, and it was a kind of an eye-opener. Because when we look into the organization aspect, we all talk about profitability. So if you're not having a safe space, imagine if there's harassment at work, bullying, or non-physical violence at work. The person is not feeling safe to work. The person is not confident. It affects their self-esteem. It affects their willingness to learn. It affects their willingness to even perform. So their productivity decreases. Eventually, what does it do? It affects your profitability because that person leaves. So you see that link where I'm trying to go? When we focus on different relevant sort of training, we're talking about these aspects of training as well. Getting people to think about conscious and unconscious bias. How they have a responsibility towards each other, towards their colleague, to be respectful, to be able to thrive in an environment together. So, of course, it keeps on changing. We've been talking about the different, aspect of changes that happens at work, and we talk about AI, we talk about leadership, we talk about the mixed generations. This keeps going. Change is the only constant, and that really brings me to the point of adaptability.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned about gender-based violence being one of the key drivers, if I can say, that are contributing to productivity in the workplace. But I'm also very interested, actually, in knowing a little bit more when you mentioned creating learning programs that are not fit for that are not designed for just one fits all. What do you believe is the number one thing that has to change and shift within us as leaders so that we can recognize, acknowledge, and be more considerate and incorporate diversity into our learning programs that are not a one-size-fits-all?
Mindset.
Ah.
Very hard to change people's mindset. Luckily, I've had the privilege to work with many senior leaders who've been able to see the change. Definitely, it takes time. When they see the outcome of it, definitely it's not like a immediate, when, let's say, for example, you're doing a training, you don't see the result immediately. It takes consistent engagement. It takes consistent, sustainable momentum that you need to keep on going. So it means in terms of monitoring, evaluating, and keep on creating that engagement together. But just getting back to your question, I mean, that really makes me think of a story, if I may say. So it's a tiny little book called Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. So I don't know if many of you have read this book. So it's about 4 characters, okay? 4 small characters, 2 little mice, Sniff and Scurry. Please remember the name, Sniff and Scurry. And 2 more characters, they are little human beings the size of the mouse, Hem and Haw. So 4 characters, Sniff and Scurry, Hem and Haw. So they're all in a maze, and the cheese is just a metaphor. The cheese is all about what you want in life. In your personal aspect, your purpose, stability, money, a house, whatever. But in an organization aspect, you want your business to thrive, you want your people to thrive, you want more profitability. So what happens in this story is very powerful to learn. It's like they're all in that maze trying to find cheese, So Sniff and Scurry, Sniff is always sniffing around to find a piece of cheese, and Scurry is always scurrying around to find a piece of cheese. So this is what they like. Whereas Hem and Haw, they're very comfortable. They have brains, so they're a bit lazy. So what they know that there's a station where there's a big cheese, so they are very comfortable of going to that station to keep on getting the cheese. So what happens one day? It disappears. The cheese disappears. So what happens? Hem stays crying, lamenting, complaining, and being in his comfort zone. He doesn't like it. He just wants to get his cheese back. He doesn't want to make any effort. Whereas Haw slowly starts to try to adopt his fear and try to find new ways of finding a cheese. I mean, this is just a metaphor to say how people actually try to find new opportunities, new ways, and try to change their mindset. Where Hem was very, very comfortable and he was always complaining about not moving. He wanted to be in his own place and being in a toxic environment, whereas Haw actually grew and tried to change his mindset, tried to change his ways, and he was finding cheese around the maze. So the maze is the environment. So I'm probably going to end my question to you. Looking into these 4 characters, do you see yourself as Hem, Haw, Sniff, or Scurry? Thank you.
Thank you, Ridhima. I love that story. That's so cute. So I guess some of our key takeaways. The first thing is that learning programs are not a one-size-fits-all. Second thing we talked about is the importance of diversity and inclusivity and the impact that has on driving real change in an organisation. And thirdly, the amazing story from which we can all learn that we don't grow in our comfort zone. We have to face our challenges as it is. And changing our mindset, real transformation is only possible when we synchronize body and mind. All right. I am the woman with many mics tonight. All right. Hi, Joelle.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's all of our pleasure. It's an honor to have you. So, question for you, Joelle. How has your experience in designing well-being initiatives like Service d'écoute, combined with your work as a coach, shaped your understanding of what individuals and teams truly need in today's workplace? Thank you.
First, I'd like to say that I'm very aligned to what both panelists actually said. From the environment I come, healthcare, it's quite a different environment, but we have so much in common. I joined healthcare around 6 years ago, and Guillaume was a former colleague. I was working in the bank, and just 2 months after, it was COVID. So just in the middle of COVID, in the healthcare sector, I realized where, you know, the spotlight is on those people that are working in health, you know, and saving lives and fighting, you know, against death or saving people. So there was a lot of pressure on the employees there. And I've lived personally this thing of COVID with them. And Service d'écoute is just one well-being strategy that CCare has adopted post-COVID. It's actually a listening strategy. As you said, Guillaume, we also adopted a listening strategy for our employees. It was, you know, in response to this mental fatigue, emotional, I would not even say fatigue, I would say like exhaustion, you know, and giving those employees a safe environment just to come and tell and talk. And it was not only about the work environment, it was much more than that, because yes, things happen in the office. Yes, there are things there, but you also have a life, you also have a family and things going on in your personal environment. So this place was a place of completely free, be yourself. It's a confidential, non-judgmental area when you can just talk. And obviously I was not alone in the journey, and I had a lot of partners that have had accompanied me through it, psychologists, NGOs, and people, you know, that bring a lot of richness into their specialty, and that supported the themes that arose in the healthcare sector. So obviously, healthcare, we talk about death, so grief was a theme that came up from mental fatigue, emotional exhaustion, and how to tackle death, and most precisely grief. That was something, yeah. Another theme that came through was around violence. You talk about it. Obviously, when people start to feel safe, they talk, they tell, they want to be seen, what is happening inside of them. So violence also was a theme that came up, not specifically, you know, gender-based, but verbal, emotional, bullying, harassment, many things came through. And with those high insights from our people, from what they were living inside our environment, this is where we design a lot of programs to support them through toolkits, you know, as you said, as you mentioned, building awareness, building up their own resources, giving them some training, some support. But it was not also something around only the employees. And I really, really think that, as you mentioned, Ridhima, it's not something about just the employees if you want to create an harmonious workplace. It has to do with leadership. If leadership does not buy in at the top of a house, then you cannot create that environment of safety, of culture, of trust with your employees. And our leadership there has started a journey. It's a journey because it's work in progress of understanding what it is for them to be, you know, conscious leaders, what it is for them to feel psychologically safe and vulnerable as well as human beings, and career richness of employees that can be very different to them, and, you know, that they can share through their own humanity. and make the place different. Yeah.
Thank you, Joelle. It's really, I'm seeing a few common themes being shared here. So we've spoken about adaptability, inclusivity, diversity. And another common theme that does tend to come up is the element of leadership. And of course, the element of mindset. But something new has just emerged, which is emotional state. So I'd like to actually learn from you. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on emotional exhaustion and how do you see that manifesting in us as individuals? And what impact do you think that has on us as leaders with the people that we're managing? Thanks, Joelle.
I think Manish talked a bit about it. When your mind, starts going, you think of many things that is happening, you stay in your mind, but then there is also a lot through your body right there. Some of us would kind of go there, but some won't, but doesn't mean that it's not there and that it will not go out at a point in time. When things get tough in your external world, when there are many things that is happening and you're not responding towards it or reacting towards it, but just keeping it for you, at a point, it might go up. And it might go up in different states, in different phases, in different ways. And this is a bit of what I call emotional exhaustion. And many people would carry it very differently. And you would see it very differently, people in the jobs, people disengaged, people being angry. Their boss is angry with them, but they just throw their anger with their children at home, things like that. It's not being able to cope with one situation at work and at home at the same time and carrying both of them in your day-to-day. So there's many ways of seeing that, but I think the main source is really what's going on inside of you. How do you manage and regulate this, and how does it get out,
Thank you, Joelle. Yeah, no, that's really, really interesting. So we've spoken about, of course, the importance of knowing what's going on in our inner environment, in our body. And I guess we started the conversation talking a little bit about COVID and the impact that has had on us. Namely, how many of us, put your hand up, how many of us have suddenly added a breathing practice into our routine? Any type of breathing practice. Yes. So as we know that since COVID began, there was a huge influx of online breathing practices, of meditation. So this is no coincidence at all. But I guess I'd want to wrap up before we move on to our afternoon tea break, which is, I've learned a lot from you as well, Joelle. Like, really good to learn about service d'écoute and about bringing that awareness into the health sector, because we know that this is a sector that is being very under-resourced. The people who are always caring for others are the ones who are forgetting to care for themselves. And I think we know that if we cannot look after our inner world, we can't really be positioned as productive, effective leaders to create that harmonious workplace. Of course, psychological safety, again, has come up in our conversation, and that is an element we all really need to think about. We've also spoken a bit about not keeping things bottled up inside. So there's an element here for all of us to understand. One is facing a challenge. One is coping with a challenge. And there's a difference. When we're coping with a challenge, we're bottling it up. We're pushing it down into our body. Would you say so? Yes. We're not willing to really see what it is bringing up within us. So we can ask ourselves the question, what is it in me? what is it in me? What is it in me that this situation is trying to show me? So with that, I'll end it here.